Let's speak to Antony Loewenstein, an independent journalist, the author of the Palestine Laboratory. Antony was based in occupied East Jerusalem between 2016 and 2020. Always a pleasure, as you know, to have you on. Antony, what difference does recognition actually make practically?
How about nothing? I mean, ultimately, this is the illusion of progress, the illusion of solidarity with Palestine, the illusion of believing somehow that recognizing Palestine, and it's worth saying to the UK, Canada, the country I'm currently in, Australia, which has not said that they'll recognize Palestine this year, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do. What actually are they recognizing? What area? What space? Now, we talk about the Palestinian Authority, and yes, the Canadian government and the British government says that the only way that this will be acceptable is the state is demilitarized, which frankly should be a non-starter at all. And secondly, reform in the Palestinian Authority. So if there's an election in that area, in the West Bank, essentially, I guess that means, and not in Gaza, it's conceivable, although we're told Hamas is not allowed to run, that support for any parties that are not the Palestinian Authority would do remarkably well. Any polling in the West Bank has shown for years people, Palestinians, loathe the PA. They're corrupt, they're old, they're decrepit, they're violent, they torture their own people. They're essentially Israel's occupying force, supporting and backing the occupation. So when you ask what are these announcements going to do practically on the ground, they may have been helpful 25 years ago, but they're utterly devoid of reality about where we are right now.
Oh, really interesting. So are you saying that the recognition itself and the conditions which come with that recognition have too many impositions on the people of Palestine, which make them almost ineffective, the demands that are coming from these Western countries, almost counterproductive in a way?
Well, it's pretty hard, isn't it, for the British government, Canadian government, Australian government, any other Western government talks about recognising a Palestinian state, and they're apparently so outraged, so they claim, about Israeli actions in Gaza. They are still funding and arming Israel. They are still sending either weapons or weapons parts for an F-35 fighter jet that Israel uses over Gaza every day. No Palestinian I know regards the comments by Starmer or Carney or my Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, as serious. They are essentially realising that nearly 2 years into this genocide, blind and complicit Western support has led us to this moment. And more Brits and Canadians and Australians are rightly outraged by what their government is doing. Now, I understand that those who support this will say, well, recognition at least means something. It shows that we're upset with Israel. I mean, we're sort of beyond being upset with Israel. I mean, Starmer in his comments this week made it very clear, and this I think reveals the sham at the heart of this policy. If Israel apparently shows more care in Gaza, whatever that means, we won't, as a British government, recognise Palestine in September. So what is that implying? That if Israel continues to starve and kill and genocide Palestinians, therefore they will recognise Palestine? It is an absurd idea, and it also just finally ignores the reality of Israel itself. Settlements have been building and developing and expanding in the West Bank for decades. There are now probably around 800,000 Jewish settlers in the West Bank. Anyone who spends 5 minutes in the West Bank knows trying to find some viable Palestinian state or entity alongside an Israeli Jewish state is frankly impossible, because the Palestinian Authority, the government that we're told should represent Palestinians, represents nobody, and the Israeli government under Netanyahu, or frankly any likely successor, because their views are remarkably similar to him, Yair Lapid, Bennett, whoever it may be, have remarkably similar views that Palestinians don't deserve their own state. So what exactly is being negotiated here, and with whom? It's delusional and dangerous.
That issue of a Palestine state, Antony, is recognition not a step towards a two-state solution, or is even a two-state solution at this point just the same aspiration that it's been for decades and decades? Because everybody knows Prime Minister Netanyahu's one of his main political aims throughout his life has been to make sure that he will deny the Palestinians their own state.
And he's been remarkably successful, of course, in doing that. And it's worth saying that it's not just Netanyahu. If you ask, as polling has done in the last even 6 months, how the majority of Israeli Jews feel about a Palestinian state, the majority say no. If you ask any serious political alternative to Netanyahu, as I said, Lapid, Bennett, anybody else, none of them support this. So yes, one could argue it's somewhere on a path towards something for Palestinians, but this is the illusion that was signed with Oslo decades ago in the early 1990s. And here we are decades on. And one of the things that I fear, and I'm not alone in having this concern, is that this is the illusion of progress. That we are told, the UK saying this, Canada, Australia, others, that yes, we're very committed to a Palestinian state. So you could negotiate this for years, for decades, so-called negotiations. Well, meanwhile, which is what's been happening in the West Bank, settlements have been massively expanding. Settler violence against Palestinians has exploded. Now, where is this Palestinian state supposed to be? It is very conceivable that a sizable proportion of those 800,000 Jewish settlers in the West Bank will utterly refuse to leave the West Bank. It is conceivable there would be a civil war type situation. Not all Israeli Jews feel this way, of course, but a sizable minority would feel that the only way we can maintain what they believe God gave us is a war, Jew on Jew. And I think this idea somehow that the only way to find Palestinian statehood is a two-state solution, when this illusion has been solved for 30 years. One state is the only viable way. One state, everyone has the same rights, everyone can vote. Jewish, Muslim, Arab, atheist, Christian, Scientologist, whatever you are. That is the ultimate inevitable outcome whenever we get there.
Antony Loewenstein, thank you so much indeed.